Basics of Life. My name's Ken Burkey, and John Loera is in the house. Thanks for being here with us, John. How's things?
Good.
How's life?
Good to be here. Great.
How's your well? Is it frozen? Is it?
It was for a few days,
Yeah.
but we got water back.
You got water back, and you got a new roof.
Got a new roof on.
And you
got
and you
new
deci-
gutters.
New gutters.
No leaks in the house.
Wow. So you decided to do your roof in the winter during
Yeah.
a major
Yeah.
storm.
Yeah.
That's
Real smart, right?
Yeah.
Put it off. Put it off.
Yeah.
It's funny, but the roofers always say that that's when everybody's calling them.
Everybody's panicking.
Last
right?
minute.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're
But
going
we're
to talk about
covered.
procrastination today.
Yeah, that would be a good topic. Absolutely.
No. So what do your topic today is something that that is at the heart of God, and it's something that we talk about a lot. But I think it's huge to talk about because I think inside every one of us wants to care.
Yeah.
We want to, hopefully be a blessing to someone else. But how we do that, how we position ourselves is we probably need to be a little more strategic and a little more intentional than just hoping that we're a caring person. So
Right. And I think I was watching a show. It was
Little House on the Prairie.
and I thought about care. Yeah. No, not Little House on the Prairie. Highway to Heaven, actually.
which was the sequel, right?
That's
or
right.
It was a spin-off.
It was Bonanza, and then Little House on the Prairie, and then
Mork and Mindy.
And then Mork and Mindy. Yeah. Happy Days. No, I was watching a talk show host that was interviewing a pastor, and he was talking about caring for people and what the church is called to do, and it was a very interesting interview. But at one point, the talk show host made a comment to the pastor and said, so, he's talking about the church and faith and all of those things, and he says, well, it's kind of like a crutch. Some people will say it's kind of like a crutch, and the pastor's response, which I really loved, is he says, no, it's not a crutch. It's like a hospital, a whole hospital. In other words, we need this. The church needs to be a place to care for hurting people. That it was really a place that's how God, God's compassion is first and foremost, and that we are called to mirror that. And the church is that place that is, in a sense, kind of like a hospital for hurting people.
I like the hospital analogy because Jesus actually said, I didn't come for the healthy, I came for the sick.
Right.
So that's a perfect analogy.
Yep. So I was thinking about that, and I'm a man of acrostics always, so I was thinking about the word care because we are called to care for one another. And the church is, in essence, this hospital, and it is a place where broken, hurting people come. So how do we and how does the church care for people? Because there's a lot of history there where people are shunned, or the church is the last place they want to go because in the midst of their hurt, there's judgment, there's lack of acceptance, there's all these opposite things of it being a place where you're going to come and get healed or get the care that you need.
Yeah, the classic is the lady who desperately needs to change her life. She's just gone down some broken paths, and someone suggests she goes to church, and she says, why would I go to church? I already feel bad enough about myself.
Exactly.
That's kind of the indictment. And yet, as a church positions and as people of faith position ourselves to care, to be that hospital, some cool stuff can happen.
Absolutely, and so it just needs to be this place that's just the opposite, that it's the safest place for people to come and get healed, So
this acrostic care, so how do we care for people in the way that God wants us to?
Well, the first one is compassion, is to have compassion for one another. I think that's really where it starts. It is absolutely where it starts.
So define compassion, because compassion's a big word people could read into. It's kind of like the word love.
Right.
It could be all types of things. So what is compassion?
Well, compassion really is this place that we get to when somebody's hurting, is to really feel their pain and to connect with them at a deeper level of what they're going through. Some would call that feeling like empathy. Empathy is also a similar emotion where you feel literally somebody's pain. You try to put yourself in their shoes. The difference with compassion is that not only do you feel that, but you actually are going to do something about it. Empathy has more of a tendency to feel it, but there's no really action that comes out of it.
So compassion is twofold. It's feeling it, but then
it's doing something about it, and it really is an experience for the person who is compassionate, because there's almost a sorrow and a breaking of our hearts in that process, which isn't always the most comfortable thing in the, but at the same time, that is what motivates us and moves us to taking a step in a direction to help someone.
So I'll just confess, I've been more empathetic than I have been compassionate in my life.
Absolutely.
Man, my heart breaks a lot, but then am I willing to do something about it? What does doing something about it look like, or is that part of the acrostic?
It is, and we can go right into that one because they're tied together. The A is action.
Action, okay.
It's action, and that looks a lot of different ways, and this is where I come back to the church being this place for people to heal. And action starts with, which is another A word, is acceptance. It's that one of the things about compassion is, there's a quote that says, don't judge somebody unless you're compassionate first, because it's easy to look at somebody that comes through the doors or that's hurting and to make a judgment or to be not be accepting, and compassion actually helps us. And that first action step is getting close to somebody and walking alongside them to get to know really what's going on in their life. And that's a hard step for certain people. Just to put ourselves out there and says this action step is what takes us from being empathetic and standing over here going, yeah, I feel your pain, good luck, to I'm going to get in the fray with you and I'm going to help you. Not that you're fixing everyone's problems, but I'm going to walk alongside you in this.
Okay, so that's huge right there, because what I just thought of was you can be involved in action and not be compassionate, because you may be helping someone, but you could be judging them at the same time. So acceptance really is maybe the most powerful action step, because like you said, I can't solve everyone else's problems, but I can accept people. I can accept them. I just last night spoke at our Celebrate Recovery chip night, where people are celebrating 6 months, 1 year. One gentleman got up 25 years of sobriety, and awesome. People were cheering him. But the common bond there is nobody can solve someone else's addiction problem. They have to decide it on themselves. But the reason that place is a place of healing is because it's a place of compassion. And I would say the number one action step on that compassion is acceptance. Absolutely. People are not feeling judged, because that's why people don't want to get help. I'm not going to go to church, I'm going to be judged. And so acceptance it's much more powerful. I guess you hear the word acceptance and you go, okay, that's neat, I accept that. No.
That's huge.
That's a miracle kind of producing action.
It's even the place where people are willing to be open about what they're struggling with. If people don't feel accepted, do you think, you usually pull back on that? I was thinking, because safety is an interesting word, because people say, I want the church to be a safe place, but that definition for people looks a lot different. For some it's, hey, I want it to be a safe place where there's no messiness there. That's what's safe to me. Whereas where safety is more of, hey, I'm struggling, I've made mistakes, I want it to be a safe place where I can come and be accepted. I can come and I don't feel judged. I can come and really, lay it out there and know that people care enough about me. So this action, acceptance, listening is an action step. Listening.
But listening is accepted. That's all part of this. I care about you.
You're sending the message that you matter. I mean, it's huge. That's why we tie these together. Like you said, you can do action steps and not be compassionate, but it has to be tied to this compassionate part. So we call it compassionate action.
I love that. Let me just. You were involved in it, and still are to a certain degree, but really with common ground. Food and clothing giveaway. And really there was a shifting there in your leadership where you said, this is not about the action of handing out food and clothing. It's about acceptance and love. And you're still handing out the food.
Absolutely.
But you could be handing out food while you're just glaring at people, judging them or whatever.
And not knowing anything about what's going on in their lives.
Not caring about who they are.
No. And I think that is the environment. This was God's plan for the church. And this is how people actually heal, because taking steps of healing has to first and foremost start with, hey, I feel like this is a place that I'm going to be accepted.
James says, confess our sins one to another, and there'll be healing in that. Well, you can't confess. Nobody's going to be confessing their sins one to another if you go, I'm going to get judged. But that's where, again, you see it in Celebrate the Recovery. There is so much honesty of confession, because there's acceptance, and then you see the healing.
And it's amazing, the stories, because when you actually take the time to listen, with walking alongside, listening to somebody, they're feeling accepted. You have no idea. You know, you can look at somebody from the outside and go, yeah, there's some struggles there, but you have no idea people's stories. We don't, you know.
Right.
We've all, and it is easy to size somebody up and go, well, you're this or you're that. And yet, once you start to get into a conversation, and there is acceptance, you find out things. I mean, there's amazing people,
Right.
Because everybody goes through stuff,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Everybody does, and I know our pastoral partners same way. They're just compassionate action. You know, they care for people. People walking through the doors in crisis, and it is literally like an emergency room. You know, you come in, and if you've ever gone to the emergency room, you know, you go there and you're kind of amped up. You're in crisis,
Right.
and the difference maker is who first meets with you to say, you know, I care. We're going to get you some help. And I think in this bigger sense in our lives, with our spiritual lives and with pastoral partners, they do that in such a great way because first and foremost, it's you're in the right place right here.
Yeah.
You matter. We care about you.
So the church really is supposed to be a place of healing,
Yeah.
as a hospital. So so we have to be willing to be compassionate, which means we have to get skin in the game.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
biggest start of that is acceptance, that people come in and they're not judged.
Yeah.
Jesus said it. He says, hey, if you're going to judge, then that's how you'll be judged.
That's right.
By the same measure you judge. So
Yeah.
that's a very sobering statement, because I'm pretty good at judging. I don't know if you noticed, but I can, you know, it's
Yeah,
easy.
you're pretty judgmental.
Well,
no.
You
I
know
think
what?
we all
I
are.
think
It's
we all
easy-
are. I
it's
think
easy to do.
and it's something, because that's part of the fall. Our
Yeah.
fall is we can just judge others, and it's a superior or whatever. But then you got to remember that statement that Jesus said, well, you're gonna, whatever, you know, you judge people by, that standard you'll be judged by. That's heavy.
And seriously, the best antidote for breaking down those judgmental walls that we put up is compassion, is to have our hearts break. And this, you know,
Yeah.
again, it seems sometimes it's hard because it's taking that step, but you put yourself out there, and as your heart breaks, it actually grows.
Yeah.
Where some of that stuff, I know for me personally, because I'm that way too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I find myself judgmental
Yeah.
at times. It's like it's helped when I've actually been willing to let my heart be broken for what somebody's going through.
And it's what you said, listening and getting to really, once you know a person, it's a lot harder to judge them.
Oh yeah.
You know, you can judge someone's sin or their whatever from a distance,
Yeah.
but you get to know them. You know their heart. You know their wounds.
Right.
You know their
Right.
how they got to that place.
Right. That's
So I'm really
curious.
curious what the R is. So compassion, the care. How do we care? Compassion, action. So I want to guess the R, but I don't know what. Go ahead.
It's actually a really practical one, and again, it's what the church needs to be about as well, and it's resources. It's resources, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, there are.
I like that.
Yeah, there are steps. You know, you come in and there's this emotional connection through compassion, and there's this walking alongside people with acceptance and with listening and building that relational component. But then there are resources there, and it is such a celebration because, you know, just even at Green Valley, I just love the resources that are available there. Everything from our pastoral partners that meet people, but then our life skills classes, because ultimately, you know, somebody coming in crisis, there's something that they can take a step to help them even further along.
Right.
You know, it's that place that says, hey, we want to be a place of resources as well.
Right.
God-honoring resources,
Right.
biblical tools to help us to actually live a healthier life.
Well, and it goes back to, I say it all the time, but time, talents, and treasures are our resources.
That's
That's
right.
what we have in this
That's
life
right.
to offer.
That's right.
In compassionate ways, because without people giving of their treasures, their money, you know, you can't help people.
Right.
Without people taking their time,
Right.
without people using their talents. So it's combining those things in very practical ways.
Absolutely. I mean, you were just talking about Celebrate Recovery, and you know, somebody comes in that's struggling with an addiction. There's a resource there for them. Again, people using their time, talents, and treasures in that capacity. Somebody's having financial crisis. There's financial resources there. Somebody that needs some spiritual guidance with our pastoral partners and our mentors. You know, there's those steps that help people not only just in. It's not a quick fix.
Right.
Type of, you know, it's not a Band-Aid, I guess, if you will.
Right.
It has to start with people feeling accepted, but then there's that path because of those resources that people are not only going to heal, but they're going to grow as well. And I think that's a critical part of what, again, the church is called to do.
So compassion, really, when it comes down to the resources, is a very practical thing.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, sometimes we think of compassion because actually the root, the word means this, guttural. So there's going to be this moment where you're just going to feel sucker punched to do something. But
Right.
once you start doing it, sometimes it's just very practical.
It is.
When you sponsor a child through Compassion International, you are giving your resources, you're
Yeah.
giving money.
Yeah.
Well, you may not feel that sucker punch every
Right.
time you write the check, so
Right.
it becomes very practical. Or
Yeah.
when you're serving and it's a long day and you're helping and you just show up because you know it's the right thing to do, and that's important because it's not always about the feeling. Sometimes it is, sometimes
Right.
it isn't.
Right. And I think that sometimes, it's like it's good to have those reminders at times. It kind of ebbs and flows, and sometimes it's not always that real super, hey, I just got hit like a ton of bricks with this, my heart breaking. But I think our hearts do need to continue to be broken.
Yeah, I do too.
And I
do
have
too.
found, being around the church for all of these years, that seems to continually happen, which I'm glad.
Right.
Because, the resources are that place that kind of is the next step so often, but,
You have
it
to-
kind of is motivated still by that
Right.
heart issue,
Right.
know.
I like, and I because, or it can become, well, I just wrote a check,
Right.
or I just
Or
spent
like you
some
said, I'm
time.
handing out food,
Right,
and I'm not really,
right.
there's no relational connection there.
Well, and I think, I don't know what the E is, but I think staying on the time, talents, and treasures, you have to kind of filter your life. I'm going to live a compassionate life
Yeah.
that God has called me to.
Yeah.
Then I need to make sure I'm positioning my time, how much of my time, my talents, and my treasures are going towards compassionate things.
Right.
And then make sure, I think when you stay close to those things, just continue to allow your heart to be broken,
Absolutely.
because that keeps your priorities right.
Yeah, it just gives you the right perspective with that.
That's why when you serve people who are broken and you're really close, whether it's a missions trip somewhere else or if it's locally, that kind of keeps your heart soft.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the E? So the care across it, compassion. You said action, but I like acceptance.
It's really acceptance.
I like acceptance.
Yeah, it actually could, because compassion is really, action is tied with that.
Right, right. And so
acceptance is really that
That's
second
what
part
that
of it.
action step
Yeah.
looks like, and then
Yeah.
it's our resources.
And then it's our resources. And then the last one, which
is I can't even think of something funny.
it's exciting. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's care is. It's exact. No, I don't know what it is.
It's exhausting. No,
Yeah.
it's not exhausting. It's example. And I say example, and this is, stay with me for a second here, but one of the most powerful things about the church and people coming in to get care is to see the examples of other people's changed lives. So it's this example that God uses in our own lives. When somebody comes in that has dealt with a tough situation as they're going through a crisis, it's very interesting that the very people that are there caring for them are people that have gone through stuff as well.
Yeah.
And it's this example that really creates an environment that gives people hope when they come through the doors. And I think that's a real important one. And I go back to tying back to the resources. There's people that are caring for people in a class that have gone through that very thing.
Right.
Maybe somebody comes through that has gone through a divorce, and we have a divorce care class of people who have experienced that.
Yeah.
And it's an important aspect, because when somebody's in the midst of it and they see no hope, it's a very powerful thing that somebody's sitting on the other side of the table going, yeah, you're in a tough place right now, but there is hope.
Right.
You can get through this. Or if you're in an addiction, go back to the Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah.
So many of them that are caring for others that have been in the throes of that themselves. That is a very, very powerful example for people.
In fact, the gentleman, 25 years clean and sober, and he told, basically he said where his life, the blessings of these 25 years and where he would have missed out on all of it.
Yeah.
His children and his wife of 40 years that,
So imagine somebody
that-
sitting in there
right.
for the first time.
Yeah.
Hearing that.
Right. That example just gives people so much hope. And that's
absolutely.
that's compassion.
It's compassion. Absolutely. And so, you're sitting there and you say, this is just a group of people, we've all been, there's credibility in that too, right?
Right.
Because sometimes it's hard for somebody that's going through something and they say, well, I appreciate the time, but God purposely ordains connections, the right connections.
Right.
And somebody that has really, you can be compassionate, you can have empathy, you can have acceptance, even more so when you've gone through it.
Right.
And there's a lot of times that people have gone through it and says, hey, I'm the last person that would sit here and judge you.
Right.
Because I've been there.
Right. I think if you were to do a diagnostic test on is your church healthy or is your own faith healthy, that you look at a church where people who have experienced healing, who have experienced God's grace,
Yeah.
whether it's overcoming
Yeah.
an addiction,
Yeah.
whether it's when you see them turning around and helping others, that's health.
Is-
That's a
yeah.
compassionate church.
Absolutely.
Wow.
God tells us, with the same care I've given you and comfort, give
Right.
to others. And that's exactly what's happening in a healthy, growing church, healing church.
And we just did a night of remembrance for those that have lost someone in their life over the last year. And the majority of our funerals we do at Green Valley are people that aren't a part of Green Valley.
Right.
And I've told this to pastors too, that there's another healthy sign that your church is compassionate, and that is that people outside of your church trust you.
That's right.
And I really, I'm not bragging on me, I'm bragging on our funeral ministry. There was a deep trust there that people could come in and not be judged, but be loved on and be
Right.
cared for.
Right.
And so,
Well, and that's just a great indication, of that's God's plan for the church.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because it breaks down all those stereotypes, all those barriers. I mean, and again, it's a place for anybody
Yeah.
to come.
awesome. Any
Cool.
last words, or that was perfect? Our time's done, believe it or not.
That just went so fast.
I know.
I would just say this again. I'm celebrating Green Valley as a place to come. That is somebody will experience healing, and it's a safe, accepting place. And I think if somebody, is in crisis, it's like first step is calling or coming by the church or come to a service, and I think they're going to experience the things that we just talked about.
Cool.
It's kind of that first step.
Good. Thanks, man.
You bet.
And it just reminds me too, acceptance is a powerful
Yeah.
action step that sometimes we don't think. But again, I saw it last night at Celebrate, the power of acceptance.
It's huge.
Because the people keep coming. And that allows God to heal them. So thanks, John. Great
You bet.
topic.
Thanks, man.
Great acrostic. We'll come up.
We'll come up with a
We'll
few
do a
more.
show where we just have like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
That would be like
acrostic.
a 4-hour show.
Yeah. That.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks.
You bet.
Hey, and thanks for being with us here on the Basics of Life. And again, as John said, you're in crisis, or you need someone to care and listen. Just come by Green Valley. We have great pastoral partners. Come to a service and be great. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.